Hey, everybody, welcome back to the How Did It Happen podcast. I am so happy to have you here as I am with every episode. And today I've got something a little bit special. It's an idea that comes from my book, Ownership, How Getting Selfish Got Me Unstuck. And I've been talking about this a lot with people on their other podcasts. And at first I thought this is an idea that really is just something that entrepreneurs deal with. But as people have been reading the book and giving me feedback, it's become more apparent to me that this concept that I'm going to share with you today is something that isn't just unique to entrepreneurs. It's probably something that, or it seems like it's something that all of us have to deal with from or at one time or another. I focused on entrepreneurs with the story in the book because that's what I am, and that's what I think put me in the place that I'm going to talk about. But it's just been very interesting to me how sort of wide the appeal, I'll say, and understanding of this concept is. So hopefully, no matter where you are in your life or your career, what I'm going to talk about today, it will resonate with you. And the thing I'm going to talk about today, I call the Valley of Uncertainty. So what is the Valley of Uncertainty? And I'm going to take an entrepreneurial perspective on this because, again, that's where I come from. But you take yours because I'm sure that you'll, as I talk about it, things will come up, in your own mind with your own experiences. So for me, the Valley of Uncertainty is the place where an entrepreneur ends up when the weight of your responsibility, the weight of your confidence, the weight of the grind of being an entrepreneur, the weight of bad outcomes, and who knows what else gets so heavy that you become worn down and stuck. And it's really a place where entrepreneurs go to expire or to give up or to slow down or to think about getting small again or to think that going forward is just too hard. You get into being an entrepreneur with this big dream and the world is going to be completely impacted by what you do, or you're going to have all this freedom, or you're going to make all kinds of money, or you're going to just have a great life. And sometimes that happens. It definitely can happen. It should be the reason you become an entrepreneur. But a lot of times things like the valley get a hold of you, and things change a bit. So what do you need to know about the valley? So the Valley of Uncertainty is deep and patient. It waits for you. It knows you're coming, right? That's the thing. It knows you're coming. And once it has you, it does not want to let you go. Does not want to let you go. And the Valley of Uncertainty loves long-term guests. It's like a long-term, Airbnb rental. It really loves people to stay for a long time. And it makes it hard for you to leave because the Valley of Uncertainty makes you feel comfortable. It lets you believe that it's not your fault that you're there. And it helps you look for someone or something to blame, like for why you're there. I like to say that it specializes in it's not your fault. And it loves putting questions in your mind that you can't answer. And it's a terrible feeling to have questions in your mind that you should be able to answer, but that you can't answer. And the Valley loves to put those questions out there, but it doesn't love to give you the answers. So once you're there, it becomes kind of and this is going to sound bad, but even though it's super uncomfortable, it becomes kind of a comfortable place to be because when you're expiring or when you're giving up or when you're doing all other kinds of things that you might do in the Valley, you aren't asking yourself the right questions, and you're not looking for the right help. And the Valley isn't giving you any direction all it is keeping you stuck. Like, I like to think that, a lot of times as entrepreneurs, when a problem comes along, we just hit the gas and go faster, and we end up like, sort of whipping our way through the problem. But over time, the tires get worn down, right? And the mud gets higher, and, we try to do what we've always done, and we try to hit the gas and get through it. And instead of making it through to the other side and being like, oh, got it, you get stuck, and you're buried up to the the doors of the car or the SUV or the truck or whatever you've got, and there's no getting out of that. So that's what the valley's like at the bottom. You fall a long way, and then you get stuck in that muck. I dropped into my own valley when my partner Butch passed away, about 11 years after we started the business, and he was burned badly in a fire and at one of our facilities, and he died a few days later. And that came on the heels of several other things. We had a team member named Billy who passed away in an accident at work. I'd been indicted, and I had been convicted of crimes and had to pay my dues for that, and it was just, and there were a lot of other things, but there were also a lot of good things that were happening too. I just ignored them because I was only focused on what I'm going to describe to you as 4 fallacies that led me into the valley. And there were probably more than 4, but here are the top 4 fallacies that I think dropped me into the valley. And maybe you can relate to these. The first one was that I can handle anything. So I had this belief system that I could outwork anyone, that I was exceptional, and not in a conceited way, but in a natural way, like a confident way. I'd proven that I could get through a lot, definitely a lot that other people couldn't get through, and I prided myself on the fact that I could, or at least it looked like I could, and it felt like I could. And I also thought that asking for help was like cheating. Like, you go through school, and if you ask people for help on a test, that's cheating, and you get in trouble. So I just, the combination of me being so focused on being right and figuring out the answers, and also with not getting help, was definitely a fallacy of mine, and I call that my number 1 fallacy. Number 2 is I'm responsible for everything. And, I shared with you a few things. I felt responsible for all of those. I was definitely responsible for the indictment, but I just felt like, with Butch and with Billy and with all the other things, the things that didn't go right in the business, I was responsible for them. And now it occurs to me, and this is one of the ways I got out of the valley, but it occurs to me that I can't be responsible for everything. I can have the responsibility for everything, but I can't be responsible for everything. It's just not possible. And if you internalize, being responsible, or you confuse being responsible with having the responsibility for, it can really weigh heavily on you. And that was certainly a fallacy of mine. Number 3 is I didn't think my future could be any different than my past. And, why would it? These things are happening in the business, and again, focused on the negative things. And, I'm in this valley, and I'm looking, I can't even see the future, let alone think about it. And even if I could, why would I think that it would be any different than what it had been, or, what my past had been and what my present was? And why would I want to put it in, 10 or 11 more years, or however many years it would take of that? That's what I was telling myself. That's the fallacy that I had. I did not have a future that was brighter than my past. And the 4th fallacy was that I had these invisible walls that I built around me and around the business, and I thought those walls would protect me. And what I mean by that is I just felt like all I needed to do was focus myself inside of the business, and everything outside of the walls of the business was something that I just didn't need and didn't want, and wasn't willing to look for. And I just thought that having those walls around me protected me. But they didn't protect me, and it's ironic because I didn't end up going to prison, but I sort of built my own prison with these walls around me, and I didn't know how to climb over them because they were very tall, and I didn't know how to dig under them because they were very deep. And so those were the 4 fallacies that dumped me into the valley of uncertainty. I can handle anything. I'm responsible for everything. My future, I don't have a future. Certainly don't have a future that's better than my past. And my walls will protect me. So that's how I got there. I hated being in the valley, but the valley did me a big favor. And on the next solo episode next Friday, I'll talk about the favor that the valley did me and how I ended up getting started on my way out of there. And if you want to read more about this, you want to learn more about this, pick up the book. You can get it on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or wherever you get your books. Ownership, How Getting Selfish Got Me Unstuck. So until the next solo, enjoy the guest episodes that are coming up, and I will talk to you then. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And thanks for subscribing and sharing. Thanks for listening to this episode of the How'd It Happen podcast, where we believe that success doesn't happen unless you make it happen. You can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you like to listen. And while you're there, please rate it and leave a comment as well. I'd love to hear your thoughts about the show, ideas for future guests, or whatever you'd like to share. And of course, you can always find me at MikeMalatesta.com. See you next time. Thanks again for listening to the How'd It Happen podcast.